We're live.
Welcome to the Heart Coherence Collaborative.
Recording started.
Welcome everybody to the Heart Coherence Collaborative. We are so excited today. We have our good friend Josiah Brandt with us. He's going to be sharing some incredible information on how coherence has positively impacted his journey. So Josiah has all this incredible work he's doing in regards to reality creation. I reached out to him probably a couple months ago and asked him if he'd be on the Quantum Healing Collective. And when he came on the Quantum Healing Collective, do you remember that?
I do.
The Power of Story.
A top 3.
Yeah. Blew my mind, blew everyone's mind. So yeah, that was such a powerful experience that we wanted to, see if Josiah would come on and share his wisdom with the Heart Coherence Collaborative as well. And he said yes. So thank you so much, brother, for being here with us. Leah's going to read your official bio, and then we'll dive into the heart.
Yes. So as the founder of the Neville Goddard School of Imagination, Josiah Brandt develops and hosts online mentorship courses, weekend workshops, seminars, field trips, and retreats focused on igniting creativity, empowering the wisdom and beauty of the human imagination, and honoring the dignity of the human spirit.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all of those words.
Yeah, me too.
I
love that. There's so much truth that it is authentic, but every time I hear it, I'm like, I feel so blessed to be on this mission. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm just really happy to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Every time I read your bio, I'm like, this is the coolest mission this guy's on.
It
the
makes
School of Imagination.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So
I feel like it makes me, like, my body feels relaxed when I read it. It's
Very
like,
good.
ooh. Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into the heart, and then we'll turn the mic over to you, my friend. So everybody that's with us, welcome, and thank you for being here. We're now going to focus our attention in the area of our hearts. Just imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart, your chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Try a pace of 5 seconds on the in-breath, 5 seconds on the out-breath, in and out through the heart. It helps. Put your hand on your heart. And as you're breathing in and out of your heart, just give thanks for the power of your heart, the strength of your heart, the gift of your heart. Maybe think of something you're proud your heart's guided you to do in this life.
And next, we're going to move into the feeling of appreciation. So continuing that pace of 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, breathing through your heart. Think of something that you really appreciate. It could be a person, someone that makes you feel really good. It could be a pet. It could be something that just feels good and nice and comforting. Just think of it. Turn your senses up in all the ways that you enjoy this thing or this person, and let that appreciation light you up.
Now, as you continue to breathe in and out of your heart, think about a moment that made you laugh, maybe uncontrollably, or just laugh out loud. Maybe you did something funny, or your friend did something funny, or maybe you just saw something funny. Try to experience that moment. Just feel that moment, whatever it was that made you laugh.
And last, we're going to go to a feeling of ease and contentment. So maybe you can imagine something real, something that's happened recently where you just felt relaxed and content and easy. Maybe you just imagine yourself in the woods or onto a beach and just feel that feeling of nowhere to go, ease in your body, completely present and content as you breathe in and out of your heart.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again so much for being here, Josiah. We're excited to hear your story of coherence.
Definitely excited to share. Thank you guys for having me. So heart coherence. So when I can point like on a timeline of Josiah's life, like I can point to the day that I learned about coherence. I learned about it right at the end of 2018. And I just happened to enroll in one of Greg Braden's courses. It wasn't a coherence course specifically. It was something else he was teaching, but in it, he taught coherence. And I remember sitting in a guided meditation with him, learning and experiencing coherence for the first time. And there was something that clicked. There's something that clicked in my consciousness. And I knew in that moment that I had discovered treasure. It's like this right here.
Yeah.
It was like a whole nother level. And I'm going to kind of share this from my perspective about, I'm here to continue the work of Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was a famous mystic in like the mid 19th century or 20th century, I guess. So like 1930 to about 1972. And he taught a lot about the power of the human imagination. And I had discovered him back in 2016 and had just discovering his work, discovering kind of the mystic approach to life, discovering the power and beauty of the human imagination and learning all of that had really already been changing my life. And then I got to the point where I learned about coherence. And that's when I felt like everything just really came together for me. And I'm going to share exactly what I mean by that. Neville teaches a lot about manifestation. He talks a lot about the imagination and how when we use our imagination, we're tapping into the creative power of the all that is. Our imagination really is the source of everything that we experience. Everything that appears physical was imaginary first. It was crafted in imagination first. And then we're basically, imagination is the first cause and everything we experience is secondary to that. And when you're learning about imagination as a tool of manifestation, what Neville teaches and what I teach by extension, continuing his work, is this process called the feeling of the wish fulfilled, right? Feeling of the wish fulfilled. So it's all about, and this is, anyone who teaches manifestation, this is what they teach, but that was Neville's words for it. The feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's what would the feeling be like? What would I feel like if I were right now already the man, the woman, the human that I desire to be? What would that feeling be like? And if I can use my imagination to kind of craft or create or manufacture that feeling and where I can kind of develop an affinity for it, and then if I can bring it in, if I can bring it into my body, bring it into my awareness, if I can sit in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and if I can do that now without relying on the evidence of my senses, without, it's not I'll be happy when, or I'll be, satisfied when, this happens or that happens or whatever else. It's, can I feel it now? Can I feel it now regardless of how my world looks? Can I put feeling first? And can I feel as that person and thus be that person now? Yes. And before I understood coherence, this was kind of a little bit of a kind of ephemeral idea for me. Like it was something I was very serious about learning to master. But it wasn't until I learned coherence that I realized that coherence is exactly that.
Yeah.
The state of coherence is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It truly is. right? So as you know, you're doing this heart coherence challenge, right? So all of you that are investing this time, coming back day after day for 21 days, you are building the skill that is the master key to manifest anything in your life. And it's not even like you don't do this to get something. You do this because this is where all of the power is. Like all of the power is in this state of coherence. It truly is. Like I call it the human super state, right? The human super state, coherence. As it was really when this kind of clicked for me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That completely changed and modified in a lot of ways, matured my understanding of the process of manifestation, because I came to realize, I was like, it's not about looking at anything so-called out there or over there to help me feel complete. It's about feeling complete now. And what does that completeness feel like? It feels like coherence. It feels like being in my heart. It feels like, you know, the heart leading the way, but the gut brain, the heart brain, the brain, right? All in coherence, all in synchronization. It feels like, you know, the feeling that we get when we complete the heart coherence meditation. And of course, over time, we're carving this groove into our consciousness, this groove of coherence. And the deeper that groove gets, you know, the more days that you come back to this practice and you're sitting in it and you're doing it not just once a day, but you're doing it twice or maybe even 3 times a day. Right at the beginning of this live stream, that didn't take long at all. It was a couple of minutes. And I can tell you like how good I felt, even just a couple of minutes, right? So it's carving that groove. And then the deeper that groove gets, the more it becomes your base state. It becomes your default way of being. It's no longer getting into coherence. Right when you're first starting out, it is, right? But at some point, you make the switch. And for me, it took about 1 year of practicing all the time, 2018 into 2019, when I made the switch, and it was like coherence became my default state. And then it wasn't so much getting into coherence, it was noticing when I was out of coherence. Right. Your laugh tells me that you know exactly what you're talking about.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then it's all about coming back to that human super state. And I've gotten to the point now where I know I trust it pretty much instantly, right? It's within probably 5 or 10 seconds, you know, when suddenly I'm like, whoa, I'm not in my heart again, because it feels foreign to me now. I'm like, wait, what is this discombobulated, out of touch, you know, kind of maybe up here in the cerebral, worrying about things like, what is this feeling? I'm out of balance. I'm out of sync. Something's not right. Right. So what do I do in those moments? Well, you have all these techniques that you can use, and all of them are valuable. But what I think for pretty much anything is we have to find a combination of techniques that works for us. Right. So for me, the first thing I do is anytime I feel that I've gotten out of coherence, I kind of get bumped out of my groove a little bit. First thing I do is I come back to gratitude, because if I'm worried about anything, there's something I'm not being thankful for. That's just the truth of it. If I'm frustrated about something, or I'm losing patience with something or someone, it's because I'm not in a place of gratitude for something, right? There's something that I'm not expressing and feeling and being, you know, the manifestation of gratitude for. So for me personally, that's the first thing I do, is like, in what way have I disconnected myself from my gratitude, right? Give you an example. Last week I was on vacation. I was at theme parks in Florida, Orlando. And there were some lines that were very, very, very long. And there was one moment where I was like, you know, this line is just a little too long for me. And instantly I was like, wait a second. I'm complaining about a line. I've forgotten that I'm on vacation. I'm at a theme park. I don't get to do this all the time. Like, let's reconnect to gratitude for like where I am, the fact that I'm with my partner, the love of my life. We're having this amazing adventure together. Of course, you have to sit in line for, you know, three hours, but still, right? Like, let me get back into my gratitude. And I was able to do it instantly. Like, hold on, let's change that story, right? Let's get back into our point of presence, our point of power, which is the now, which is gratitude, which is coherence. Right now, so first thing is, what am I not being grateful for, and how can I reconnect to that gratitude? And then after that, it's recentering back into the heart. I kind of do this on my chest, because for me, it is very much a physical thing. I can feel physically when my heart is open and I'm centered in it. And when my heart kind of does this, and I kind of get off into my head, or I get out into worries or concerns or frustrations, or get kind of caught up in a bunch of thoughts, spinning the wheels of thoughts up there, I can feel physically when my energy field begins to close off that way. So for me, it's okay, let's get back into gratitude. Let me get back into my heart. Let me do the deep breathing. Let me come back to center, and let me find the silence. Now, that's the second thing I wanted to mention here. When I first discovered coherence, the very first time that Greg Braden walked me into feeling coherence, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, holy crap, where did this like non-stop like chatter of my brain, the monkey mind, like where did that go? It just disappeared. All of a sudden my mind is silent, and I'm centered, and I feel clear, and I feel like me. Right? It's unbelievable to me. And I was like, oh my God, I just found like the key to flip off like that constant, incessant chatter of my mind. And you know what's interesting? There are all kinds of superpowers that are available to humans that some people would say, are godlike qualities. And I would say humanity is evolving towards them becoming very, very common and standard. Things like seeing the future, right? Like precognition, things like telepathy, right? Things like, being able to perceive, remote viewing, right? Perceiving things over vast distances, right? Yeah. All of these so-called superpowers that, some people may still think are mythical. I think it's a product of evolution. I think humans are literally evolving into the next version of humanity, the next species of humanity. I think we're seeing a birthing process of this right now. I bring this up because there's one state, there's one place in which all of these so-called superpowers are available, and it's not the monkey mind. You cannot access telepathy. You cannot access, perceiving distances ahead of time, perceiving across distances, or perceiving, precognition. You cannot tap into these places where this information is available to you if your monkey mind is running the game show up here, right? It doesn't work. It is only in that place of alignment, coherence, silence, the point of presence, the point of power, that all of the vast amount of information that the universe is ready to make available to you is accessible, right? You have to step above the drama of your ordinary, beta brain. You have to step above that in order to get access to this field of information that is available in every moment. But it's only available in the present moment. And when we're in beta brain and we're worried about the past, or we're thinking about the future, not perceiving the future, but like thinking or worrying about the future, right? All of that information, all of that is distracting our attention, and it's pulling us away from what truly is our point of presence and our point of power, which is the present moment and the state of coherence, where all of the information that we could ever possibly need to know is readily available to us, right? So that was point number 2. And then point number 3, which is kind of a continuation of this idea of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Point number 3 is this idea of the importance of sleep, right? Neville Goddard taught a lot about sleep and how, sleep is a communion with your higher self. Like the state of sleep, it's like, you kind of step out of the conscious mind and into the sub or unconscious mind and kind of have this communion with yourself. And he teaches that you have to approach sleep like a young lover is keeping an appointment with a lover, right? Like a young person is keeping an appointment with a lover. It's like, I'm keeping this appointment with my subconscious, my unconscious, with the God part of myself, right? And so he says it's very important, the state in which you enter that communion with the deeper part of your being, right? So this is, and the Bible speaks about this too. It says, don't let the sun set upon your anger, right? Like resolve the issues of the day before you carry them into this appointment with your lover, the deep of your being, right? You want to enter in, cleanse. You want to enter in feeling free, and you want to enter in feeling beautiful. And you don't go see your lover, at least if maybe I don't. I like to shower and drink up a little bit.
Try at least.
Right? So you want to cleanse a little bit and be ready for that communion, ready for that meeting. And this is a way to do it. So what I suggest, if you're not already, I suggest adopting the practice of coherence in a way that allows you to literally fall asleep, to drift off into the subconscious unconsciousness in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, which is coherence,
Mm.
right?
Oh,
And this practice right here has also completely changed my life. It's now a nightly routine. Every time when I'm going to bed and keeping that appointment with my lover,
yes.
I'm doing it with Thanksgiving. I'm doing it in joy. I'm doing it in coherence. And it's this, it's like the last thing that is ever on my mind as my mind kind of lets go and I fall into sleep land, is I'm thinking about my heart. My heart is open and I'm in gratitude, and I'm grateful for my life, and I'm grateful for the events of the day, and I'm grateful for what the future holds. And I'm, in this place of peace and oneness, and my point of presence and my point of power. And that's the spirit with which I enter into sleep.
Mm.
It's just something I can only tease it so much. It's really something you have to try for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. I assumed he was going to bring the noise, but I didn't know you were going to. That was just amazing. Perfect guy for this challenge, man. That was like the best speech ever.
Cool. Yep. And that's basically all I got. So if you got questions for me, cool.
Yeah. Heck
All right.
yeah. You got any off the top of your head?
Yeah.
I heard you say something there just now about I think you said before you go to bed, you want to get in that right state. But I think you also kind of maybe alluded to revision. I was curious if you could just elaborate on Neville Goddard and revision and that whole process before bed and how important that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So revision is I've kind of made my way around the mystic space at this point. As far as I know, Neville Goddard was kind of the primary guy to talk about this idea of revision, or at least in these words and this way. Maybe other people have spoken about it too in a similar time frame, but essentially what revision is it's this idea that the past is not permanent. It's mutable. It is, you can change the past. And if you really start to understand what consciousness is, this endowment that we've each been given, this kind of the embodiment or the manifestation of consciousness in these bodies, you really start to understand the nature of what consciousness is. You can start to understand, okay, maybe, and honestly, some quantum physics research at this point is starting to show this as well. The past is not as permanent as we're all taught to believe traditionally that it is. So this idea that if you get to the end of the day and there's something that happened in that day that is other than what you would have preferred, right? Let's say that you had, an angry word came out and maybe, you hurt someone's feelings and you didn't mean to, but like it happened. And it's like, or maybe you got a letter in the mail. That's one of Neville's favorite examples. He's like, let's say you got a letter in the mail and it was not the letter that you wanted to get in the mail. The whole idea is you get to the end of the day, and as you're laying in bed and you're getting ready to keep this appointment with your lover, part of like this cleansing process is reviewing your day, looking back over and saying, okay, what of this would I want to have gone a little bit differently? And it's this way of kind of, there's kind of a practical wisdom to this as well as a mystical wisdom. Like, I think it kind of makes sense to reflect on the life that we're living, but not just, when we're 90 and looking back on it and it's, kind of dim, but day by day, right? There's kind of like it's kind of like a mindfulness practice, being present with like, this is the life that I'm living. This is what's happening in my life. And there's something precious about that. That's the practical side. On the mystical side, it's like, okay, what happened and how would I prefer that outcome would have gone? And there's, this is a practice of clarity, because it's like, well, I got a letter I didn't like. Most people, that would be the end of it. They're like, man, this letter sucks. And they accept it as final. And it's just the consequences are what they are. And man, I just had a crappy day today. Right. Yep. But the mystic teaches, hold on, don't accept it as final. Don't accept it as like the first, you're a director, you're shooting a movie. The movie is your day. Right. And you have the actors, and one of the actors brings out a letter and it says one thing. And then you're the director and you're like looking at it and you're like, hold on, cut. Let's redo this scene. And this the letter is going to say this. Right. So it requires you to kind of have that perception of the clarity of perception of what would I have preferred is the letter that's included in my movie, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm shooting my movie. This is the life of Josiah Brandt, and this is his movie, right? And I'm the director. I'm also an actor in it. You all are actors in it, right? So it's like I have the opportunity to say, hold on, cut. Let's rewrite this scene to better tease out what we desire to really make manifest in this movie, right? So in that case, you figure out what would I want the letter to say, and then in your imagination, right, And this also is a practice of cultivating a vivid imagination. So if you can't do this at first, don't get deterred. There is a practice element to this. This is a skill set that you develop. Your imagination, imagine yourself going to the mailbox and pulling out the letter and opening it up and reading it. But this time, imagine that the words are saying what you want them to say, right? Or to use that other example I gave, imagine you're in that conversation again and the person said the one thing, and instead of lashing out in anger, right, you rewrite the script and now your character says the new script, right? And you hear in your imagination, you hear yourself saying it and you see their response to it, right? The whole idea is that they're not separate from us. The person that sent us the letter, they're not separate from us. The person that we had the conversation with, they're not separate from us. On a higher level, we're all one being. So when we're going into consciousness, we're going into our imagination and we're rewriting these scripts, it is affecting all of everything, right? And I can share probably deeper than what we have time for right now, but I have a lot of examples of how I've used this technique of revision to change, modify, upgrade, right, relationships with people, with situations, with things in my life. It's become one of my standard go-to tools in my toolbox of how to deal with the blowing winds of life, right? It's kind of, it's right in there as one of the first things I go to.
I would love to hear one of those stories. I actually think there's nothing more powerful than a story to teach and to get people motivated to do it, because otherwise it's just like, okay, I should do this thing called revision. What is it?
Right. It's
So
theoretical.
will you tell the story that will get us most excited about why this is a thing we should do?
I do, yes. And I appreciate the invitation. All right. So I got a couple to choose from here. I'm going to go business partner story. Okay, so a couple years ago, I had a business partner.
Okay.
And we had a kind of a falling out. Like something happened. I wasn't real happy with the way that this individual handled something, and it led to us not speaking to each other. Right. And that didn't feel good either, because it's like a complete breakdown in communication. That's like never the goal. But that's kind of where I found myself. So I decided to apply this tool. And what I did, and I'm going to share this very transparently, and I think there's a teaching moment in here too, because some of you may get to a situation where you're like, I'm not sure what I would have preferred. I just know I didn't like this. That's where I was in this particular moment. I was like, I don't really know how I would have preferred that this whole thing went. I just know that this, where we are now, is not great. So what I did was, in my imagination, I sat him down and I had a conversation with him. In my imagination, it was an imaginary conversation with him, but it enabled me to move the energy, because I had the conversation with him that I felt that I wasn't ready to have in real life, because he wasn't available for it, because the communication had broken down. So I had the conversation with him, and I wrote that conversation in a way where both parties had the opportunity to get out what they were feeling, right? And we were able to find a consensus, find a solution, forgive each other, and move beyond it. And I did all of this in my imagination only. All this in my imagination only at this time, right? Third day, and this is very common. So usually there's like a 3-day gestation period. Third day after doing this, I did this not as I was falling asleep. I did it at the end of a day. It wasn't right as I was laying in bed or anything like that. Just to be clear, there's not like a, you can do this, you can apply this multiple ways. Sometimes getting into bed and doing it, if it removes distractions, can be easiest. I didn't do that for this particular situation. It was at the end, it was like a late evening that I did this. Took about, maybe 15 minutes to like just really sit and get into the space, and then like in my imagination go through all of this. And when I came out of it, I had the clarity of, this is how I wish it would have gone. And this is, third day later, he called me and was like, I have been tormented by this situation. He's like, I feel really bad that we haven't been talking. I feel really bad about what I did. I feel really bad about like the whole situation. And I haven't been able to sleep. I've barely been able to eat. This has just been driving me crazy, and we got to talk. Right. So immediately communication stalemate gone. And then he proceeded to say back to me the things that I had said in my imagination, which was surprising, but also not, right? Because that's how this thing works. The Neville quote here is, people only speak to us what we whisper to them in secret. right?
Mm.
But when they
Ooh.
come and speak back to us, what we whisper to them in secret.
Mm.
And in this case, that's exactly what happened. I had whispered to him in secret, in imagination, and this, I want to be very clear. This is not a manipulation situation. This wasn't a, let me get myself in a better position by like making him say something, that diminishes him. No, I very much approach this in a loving, heart forward, heart open. I want this to be resolved. I want both parties to be heard. I want there to be consensus. I want there to be collaboration. I want both of us to move on from this feeling like we're closer, we're better for it. That was the place that I was coming from. And that's exactly what he came back to me and said. He was like, I want to resolve this. I want to make it right. I want to fix what I did wrong. And I want to move forward from this. And it was literally, I had no indication until he called me 3 days later that that's the place he was in. I mean, at some point he had hung up on me. He's like, done with this conversation. Right?
Wow.
It was like a complete switch, but the seed started here. Right. It was imagination is the first cause. And that was the ripening and the flowering of what I had planted in my imagination.
Oh man, that's so amazing. I'm thinking about it because I do a process right now where at the end of the day, I reflect and I turn it around and I see where I was selfish. And then if I need to apologize to somebody, I do, but to take that a step further and then imagine it being differently. Oh man, that's powerful stuff. And I'm thinking too that like, if I imagine it going differently and then that same situation comes up again, I assume it's probably a lot easier to act as I envisioned it because I've already kind of created those neural pathways.
Yep. It's like you've already written the script, going back to the director analogy, right? You've already written the script. You're like, oh yeah, I know how to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool, man. I was wondering, like, do you have any techniques you do every single day that are reality creation based?
So the ones I've mentioned, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, yes.
Yeah.
I'm big on writing, and I love writing from, right? So like writing from the end, as they say, right? Writing from the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So, I am the man that I desire to be, and let me write from that state. So it's always like assuming ownership now of whatever it is that I'm creating, as opposed to putting it, later, like, I will versus I am, right? So it's like you want to be in the I am as opposed to the I will.
Yes. I love that. So you'll write out like a situation as if it's already happened and kind of just say, yeah. Oh, that's powerful. I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one. A really good one. Yep.
Adding it to the routine. And then my other question is, have you used heart coherence to enhance any of your reality creation techniques?
Yes, absolutely. So in my opinion, heart coherence is the key. And I think it's something there's I think the community as a whole will grow into this. I think the world's still discovering heart coherence on a certain level, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, it is the key. And for me, it's not reality creation unless it's coming from coherence. That's the place that I'm at now. It's coherence forward, and then all my creating comes through that. Because here's the thing: when I'm in coherence, I'm in the place of already having everything. I'm a child of God. I've inherited a multidimensional universe, right? Because I'm in alignment with all that is, right? So I'm sitting one with all that is, meaning I need and want for nothing. I'm complete. I'm whole. I'm here, and everything is perfect. That is the state from which to create, as opposed, and I'm going to throw this out there just for contrast, as opposed to I'm feeling like I'm lacking something. I'm lacking love. I'm lacking, money or finances. I'm lacking, opportunity, right? And so let me try to get something I don't have. That doesn't work nearly as well as I am everything. Now let me appropriate. That's the word Neville uses a lot. Let me appropriate from the abundance of all that is the specific things that I desire to experience. And in my mind, that is the next level.
Beautiful. I'm also super curious, just how did you get into Neville in the first place? It's crazy. You are the Neville guy, man.
Yeah. I was going through a period of my life where I had some questions.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
man,
that much
did I
year
have
for
questions.
real.
I think that's always a great part.
Every year.
No, but you're right though. There is something to be said for always having that thirst. But for me, I was having some, why am I here? What's the point? What's life all
Yeah.
about? I went through a period of my life, you know, most of my, up until about, you know, my mid 30s, or early 30s, I would say, life was very much an amusement park for me. And it was like, oh, let's, you know, let's go try this, let's go try that, let's go a little bit of, you know, a little bit of sauce, a little bit of spice, a little bit of sweets, right? Let's figure out what there is. And at some point I was like, you know, if this is all there is to life, then I'm not even really sure that I want to do it anymore. Like I got bored with the theme park of life. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be more. So that brought me into some of the law of attraction teachings. Like, it was like, okay, what else is there? And I remember finding Abraham Hicks. At that point, she was very early on my journey. You know, hearing someone talk in the way that she talks, there's really no one else that talks like her. And I was like, I don't know what she's saying, but I love it. And there's probably something there to learn. Right? So over time, I began to understand a little bit better what she was saying. And so that kind of led me on like this little rabbit hole of like her and similar teachers. And I was actually on YouTube, and I was just like, I got to the point where I was listening all day, every day to all these different things. And at one point I was just had YouTube on an autoplay, and I was just like going through videos, and a Neville video came on, and it was him in his voice, one of his original teachings. And there was this, you know, kind of like this hum or this whine, because his recordings are so old. So instantly I knew I was listening to something from maybe, you know, 60, 70, 80 years ago. And so I was like, well, that's different from all these other, you know, Abraham Hicks is recording like 2014, right? So it's like, I was like, something's very different about this. And then I heard his voice, and I heard what he was saying. And my soul stood up inside of me. This is like a visceral experience that I had. My soul stood up and said, this man, you need to learn from this man.
Yes.
And I picked up the phone and I looked at it, and I was like, who is this? And I said, Neville Goddard. I was like, never heard of this guy. I want to know what he knows. And so I went on this kind of binge dive into Neville things. Now, here's the thing. This was before the explosion that has happened now on the internet of Neville everything. There's you know, when I started on this path, there was like one Neville Goddard Facebook group. Now there's probably 250, 300, right? Who knows? There was like maybe 3 channels that were talking about his work or republishing his recordings. Now there's hundreds, right? So it's like, I got in like right at that very beginning. And one of the first things I noticed, I was like, some of these recordings I literally cannot hear because they're so old. And so I had this idea. I went out and I looked and I found the transcripts, and I said, well, if I can't hear them, other people can't hear them either. And then if I want to hear them, other people want to hear them. How about I read them for other people?
There you go.
Myself, right? So that's what I started doing. And I started putting it on YouTube. One thing led to another. It really started to blossom, really started to grow. I went very deep into Neville, learned a ton. My entire life changed. Everything about my life changed as I started to learn. And not just learn, apply. Apply is so important. It's so easy to learn things. Learning doesn't do you any good unless you apply. I began to apply the teachings, and that's what changed my life. And then also, funny how this whole course started with me asking, like, what's the purpose of my life? Going down this path helped me find the purpose of my life, and it's to give, and it's to serve, kind of be a spirit guide in a manner of speaking, and help others discover their meaning and purpose in a similar way to how I've discovered mine. And so that's actually why I'm sitting here talking to you guys now, is because of how that whole bridge of incidents unfolded.
Well, thank you for being here with us, man. Truly, like, this is incredible. And now to just like the next step to follow that up, you've opened a School of Imagination, Neville Goddard School of Imagination. I would love to hear about that, because to me it sounds like Hogwarts. Like, it's like, let's go. I want to be there. I want to play. You know,
pretty close to Hogwarts. Not gonna lie. It's really about how do we take what Neville taught us. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just Neville. All mystics over all the ages have taught it. There's something remarkable about the way that Neville taught it. And that's why I kind of Neville first in my own personal life. But how do we take that, and how do we make a lifestyle out of it? And that's the premise under which the School of Imagination was founded. So it's devising techniques based on that and teaching them. It's about applying it daily. I've got a kind of a curriculum of courses that are available on there now. And I have more that are coming. I am teaching a live course right now I kind of teach the courses live first and then kind of archive them to become part of the curriculum that people can come and enroll in. And one of the coolest things about all of this is the community that has been built around it. When you find someone that you really resonate with, right? Whether it be Neville or my work as a kind of reflection of Neville's work, that type of thing. And then you connect with other students who are also into it. There's some serious magic that happens.
That's right.
And that's been one of the most rewarding things for me, is not just teaching these things and, putting it out and hosting courses, but the community that I've built around these ideas is really very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way just about like heart coherence. Like the fact that you just radiated this passion for heart coherence, I'm like, oh, he's a brother. This is my guy. I love him.
You're part of our group.
Yes.
Yeah. Soul tribe. 100%.
Yeah. Feels so good.
Very good. Yeah.
So you have, I mean, that was just amazing. So I think the last question I want to ask you is just, what do you have coming up that our followers can get involved with? How can we support you? I'm sure after people watch this, they're going to be blown away and want to connect with you.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I've been teaching courses for a long time. Now I'm starting to transition towards workshops, more hands-on and much shorter. Most of my courses are like 6 weeks or longer, which is great, particularly if you're at the beginning of your journey. You're like, I need that accountability to come back and apply this, consistently over a period of 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it is. Workshops are a little bit more pointed, but a lot more interactive and hands-on. And that's kind of like the next phase of my journey. It's not that I'm leaving classes, it's that I'm now adding or supplementing workshops. So I've got a whole curriculum of workshops coming. A lot of them will be digital. At some point, I will start doing in-person when the time's right, workshops. But in particular, this whole idea of the feeling of the wish fulfilled and understanding that as a tool or capacity to manifest, and then understanding the ways that coherence kind of weaves into that topic or weaves into that idea. I have a whole workshop coming on that. That's probably going to be in December. I don't have it up yet, but it is coming. So if you're interested in something like that, and I have many more coming after that are on a variety of topics, including, just to kind of like throw out a little teaser there. If you're familiar with the hypnagogic state, the state between wake and sleep, it's that there's a certain point when you're falling asleep. Most people just like kind of blast right through it. But if you practice and you learn to kind of hold your attention there, your body falls asleep, your mind stays awake, and that is a doorway to another universe. And I have a workshop that I'm developing on how to kind of master the art of riding that edge to get into the hypnagogic state and what to do with it. So that one's coming beginning of next year. If you're interested in these sorts of things, join my mailing list. Go over to my website, schoolofi.org, schoolofi.org. Join my mailing list. I'll be sending out all of the notifications about workshops that are available for that sort of thing. And then the last thing I want to mention is retreats. Definitely have retreats planned for 2022. We've spent all this time in isolation, or at least kind of avoiding other people. It's time to get back into places with other people.
It's been time.
It's been time, yeah.
Yesterday
and
was
2022
time.
is like the blossoming of that. So I'm participating in a retreat in the beginning of January at one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's a famous Hotel Xcaret in Mexico, Playa del Carmen.
Nice.
Absolutely gorgeous, stunning. I'm one of 3 amazing speakers that are putting on this 5-day experience. That one's available. Experiencetransform.com is the website for that. I'm not the organizer. I'm just one of the keynotes. So if you're interested in coming and hearing me and like-minded people joining in a high vibe group like that, celebrating the new year in style, definitely take a look at that. That's experiencetransform.com. And I think that's pretty much what I got going on right now.
That's awesome. And we'll put those links when we post this video. We'll get it in the description.
Yeah. Congratulations, man, on all the things you're doing. The fact that you're just living so authentically in the heart space. I'm grateful for our friendship and just so grateful that you came on and shared with our collaborative.
Absolutely.
You were the perfect person. This is I didn't even know there was really another person who was into reality creation with coherence at the same time. So I didn't even really know the depth of that